One of my biggest issues with Korra Book 1 is the writing of the titular protagonist's character arc. Here was the idea. Korra is bad at airbending because she lacks patience. Once she learns patience, she'll be able to airbend. This is similar to certain arcs that were fused with bending in The Last Airbender. To learn earthbending, Aang had to think like an earthbender and stand his ground. To relearn firebending, Zuko had to stop relying on his anger and learn that fire is not destruction, but life and energy. In theory, this would be a very simple character arc to write, but it looks like the writers struggled due to their inexperience with serial stories. Avatar was a mostly episodic story, which means that most episodes were self-contained and some could be rearranged to an extent. Avatar was good at this, but then in Korra, the writers decided to go for a serial approach, which means that the episodes need to be in a specific order because they're heavily connected. Writing a character arc in an episodic story is very different from writing one in a serial story. In an episodic show, usually each episode can have a new character arc that starts and ends in that episode. In a serial show, usually the character arc spans across the entire season and is slowly developed until the arc is completed towards the end. Korra Book 1 suffers because the writers wrote a serial show, but wrote an episodic arc that they then tried to turn into a serial one. That didn't work out. Here's the evidence. In episode 2, Korra is struggling with airbending because she doesn't have patience. If the writers wanted her to learn airbending after she learned patience, the smart thing to do would have been to have her struggle with patience throughout the entire season and finally master it in the last episode, unlocking her airbending. These writers had something else in mind. In the climax of the episode, Korra starts using airbender movements to evade attacks and win the final match. The first problem is that Korra didn't actually learn patience before this moment, yet she was rewarded with the prize for patience. There wasn't a scene that showed her abandoning her hot-headed ways. Even worse is that she continues to be hot-headed in future episodes, proving that she didn't learn her lesson. The second problem is that the writers were trying to wrap up her season-long arc in episode 2. If they believed that she had earned her patience, then she should have been able to airbend, like Aang with earth and Zuko with fire. But they didn't allow her to, because they wanted to save that for the end. They wanted it both ways. They wanted her to learn her lesson by the end of the episode, but they also wanted to stretch out the arc and power up until the last episode. The problem gets worse when I factor in how she actually learns airbending. Amon takes her bending away, then when she sees Mako about to have his bending stolen, she gets emotional and can now use air. Avatar had already established an explainable way for the Avatar to learn bending, and that opportunity was available for Korra. It was even connected to a character arc. Instead, the writers went with a typical anger or strong emotions unlocks a power-up. It's a plot convenience that made even less sense because she already lost her bending. It was never established that bending removal only applies to the elements you already know how to use. Rewriting this arc is simple. Have Korra's impatience constantly get her in trouble, but then in the season finale, have her learn patience and reward her with airbending. Tying this into defeating the equalist philosophy is simple too. In the final battle, Korra could have the patience to engage with Amon's beliefs. She could argue that bending is not the source of all evil like Amon believed. Bending is just a tool that can be used by good or bad people. Then she could externalize this belief by using bending to save the equalists from the destruction that they caused. The bending that she'd use would be airbending, which she earned from her patience. This could shatter the equalist philosophy and have them all quit on Amon. The equalists learning that their leader was a bender could add to his fall from power. She wouldn't even have to beat him in a fight. This would have been so easy for them to do, but they didn't understand the differences between writing serial and episodic shows.